Hello everyone, my name is Mario Tiozzo and I'm the Data Analysis and Visualization Librarian here at UNB Libraries. Today we're going to take a look at how to analyze the CDC data on motor vehicle deaths. We are interested in finding out more about incidences in 2014 specifically, so we will use some CDC data, analyze it, and then try to use that data analysis to answer a few related questions. Before we do that, let's make sure everyone has access to Microsoft Excel. Excel is a spreadsheet software that's fairly ubiquitous and freely available to all UNB students. For those of you who are not very familiar with Microsoft Excel, I've included a link in the notes of this video to another of my videos which goes through a 20-minute introduction to Excel. There you'll learn many of the basics and should be really worthwhile for those who have no or minimal exposure to Excel. In order to download the software, simply go to unbcloud.sharepoint.com/sites/its self-serve. Don't worry, I'll put the URL in the notes of this video as well. Here you would go to the student section. Unfortunately, I don't have access to that, so I'm going to go to the faculty section to show you. You'll notice that we have Apple or Mac operating systems and Windows 10 operating systems. Since I'm using a PC, I would go to the Windows 10 and select Microsoft Office here and follow the prompts. The Microsoft Office suite includes more than just Excel. It includes Microsoft Word, which is a word processor, PowerPoint, which is a slide presentation software, and Microsoft Access, which is a database-ish software program. In this case, though, we will only be using Microsoft Excel, which is a spreadsheet program. Now that we have Microsoft Excel, let's open it. The starting menu lets you open a new workbook, open an existing workbook, or open workbooks that you've been recently using or that you have pinned. In this case, we'll open a new workbook and we'll pick blank workbook. Now that we have it open, let's make a quick modification to it before we get started. We're going to be using the Data Analysis Pack, which is an add-in to the standard Excel. To see if you have it, go to the Data tab. And if you have it, it should be at the right of the ribbon. If you don't have it, simply go to File, Options, Add-ins, Manage Excel Add-ins, press Go, and then select Analysis Tool Pack. You'll notice that mine's already selected. Yours should be unselected if you don't have it. Select it and press OK. When you go back to the Data ribbon, it should be there. Mine's a little hidden, but it is there. Data Analysis Tools. Great. Now that we have Excel updated the way we want it, let's download our data set. Let's go to the CDC's data page, data.cdc.gov. Let's type in motor vehicle in the search box. The first entry is the one we want, and we note that it says dataset here. That's perfect. Also note that there are other types of entries that are not datasets. If we wanted to, we could filter the returns for datasets only by going here and pressing datasets. Now all the returned entries are datasets. Notice the datasets that we want, 2012 to 2014 all states, is now the second entry. We'll click on it and we get an information page. Let's quickly look at it. It's telling us that this dataset has the rate of deaths by age and gender per 100,000 in population for motor vehicle occupants killed in crashes 2012 and 2014. We have the sources of the data, we have the last time the data was updated, and we have the data provider. It also tells us that blank cells indicate data are suppressed. Fatality rates based on fewer than 20 deaths are suppressed. So we know that whenever we see blank cells, that's the reason why. If we scroll down, we get even more information about usage and then about what's in the data sets, each of the fields in the data set. That's great. This is perfect. Let's export it. We see the export button here. We'll press on it. It's asking us how we want to receive this information. We could go CSV, but there's also CSV for Excel. And since we're using Excel, why don't we pick that? Press CSV for Excel, press download. We get a download here. We'll open it up. If you don't get a download pop-up, your file will probably end up in a folder called download, or whatever folder you've decided to be your default download folder. Here I get a pop-up saying that Excel wants to perform data conversions. I'm going to tell it not to convert. We're going to keep the data as is. Okay, here's our data. Let's try to clean it up a little bit. I've experimented with this data set on a couple of different Excels, and you may or may not see the exact same things as I do. So yours might be slightly different. I'll clean it up as best I can. You may have to do a little bit more cleaning or a little bit less cleaning to make it look the way you're going to ultimately see it, but hopefully I can walk you through every step. Before we do that though, let's explore our data just a little bit. We note that it's broken down by states, by age/year categories, and then by gender/years categories. We see a bunch of numerical data, and remember this data is motor vehicle deaths per 100,000 in the population. From the data description on the website, we also remember that the blanks are suppressed data that were 20 deaths or fewer. So before we go to the analysis, let's try to clean this up a little bit. It's a little bit hard to see, so let's do some column adjusts. So I'm just going to highlight all the columns within this data set. Then I'm going to go to the edge of one of the columns, doesn't really matter which one. You'll see that my white cross will change to some sort of double arrowed line. I will then double click on it, and this will adjust the column length to match the data set. It looks like my data set has some wrapped text in it. Notice in cell B3, Rhode Island is all squished within a smaller box. That tells me that it's probably wrapped data. So I'm going to wrap and unwrap. That'll clear all the wrapping. Great. That makes it look a lot cleaner. I'm going to double click on the columns again now. There we go. Now we see the entire data. Because it's a fairly big data set, you lose the context if you go too far on a spreadsheet. So if you go down, then you don't see the headers anymore, and you can get a little bit lost as to what the data means. I'm going to go back to the top. I'm going to go to cell B2. I'm going to go to the View tab, Freeze Pane in the ribbon. Just press Freeze Pane here. Freeze Pane will always go above the cell and to the left of the cell. So because I went to B2, it'll lock in the first row and the first column. You see, now we can see the header. And if we drag it to the right, we can see the field, the state field. So let's explore data a little bit more. Note that over here in New Jersey, female New Jersey, which is cell P52, there's a little apostrophe in front of the number. This tells Excel that this is actually text, which in this case is incorrect. I'm not sure why that happened. It didn't happen in all my Excel experiments, so you may not be seeing this. This might be correctly identified as a number. In this case, it's not. So I'm just going to remove that symbol, and it'll revert back to being a number. To right size the column as well. Perfect. Okay, we are now ready to start analyzing our data. Remember, we are interested in a 2014 data, so let's calculate the male and female statistics for that year. First, let's calculate the 2014 male data. We could create a bunch of formulas to calculate the descriptive statistics in this data set, but instead, let's use our handy-dandy data analysis to do this more quickly. So we click on a data analysis button. Remember, that's in the Data tab, Data Analysis. Here we have a pop-up box, and we want descriptive statistics. Press OK. We get another pop-up menu that says Input Range. So this is the range that we want to analyze. In this case, we want it to be male 2014, which is column N. So we'll say all of column N. And our data has labels in the first row, so we'll click that. We'll need an output range, so Excel wants to know where do you want me to put this data. We could put it on a new worksheet, but in this case, let's put it next to the data. And saying, okay, where next to the data do you want it? Let's put it in an empty cell, identify the cell, R4. And what do we want to see? We want to see summary statistics. We won't worry about everything else. Press OK. And here we have the data. Again, we'll right size the columns. We can see the data in question. Let's do this again for female 2014. So we'll press on the data analysis button, descriptive statistics, that's perfect. We don't want it to be N in this case, we want it to be P column. Everything else should be the same except for the outputs. So let's put it right here, right next to male, so we can compare it. Label in first row and summary statistics are already clicked, that's perfect. And we'll press OK. And now we have our male 2014 and our female 2014 statistics right next to each other. So let's take a look at the data output and try to understand what it's trying to tell us. Let's first look at count. We notice we have 49 for males and 47 for females. What does this mean? So count is the numeric count within a data series. So we would have 49 data points for the 2014 male category and 47 for the 2014 female category. If we remember that there are 52 data points in each data series, then that means that the male series has 3 blanks and the female series has 5 blanks. Let's try to confirm that. You can see here in the male category, Rhode Island is blank, so that's 1. Vermont is blank, so that's 2. If we go all the way down, the District of Columbia is blank, so that's 3. The 2014 female category, Rhode Island, that's 1. Vermont, 2. Hawaii, 3. Alaska, 4. And the District of Columbia, 5. So that works out. So what about the minimum and the maximum? What do those mean? Well, these are simply the highest and lowest values in a data set. Let's use some conditional formatting just to highlight this. Let's highlight the male category. Go back to the Home tab, click on Conditional Formatting, Top Bottom Rules, Top 10 Items, and let's go just Top 1 items, the first item. Let's do that again, but this time, let's go Bottom 10 items, and let's go Bottom first item, so the lowest item. So this will identify the bottom and the top. So the top right here, 27.7, and the bottom is 3.8, which matches up perfectly with data analysis output. Let's do that for females as well. We don't have to recreate this. We can just highlight the end column, press the Format Painter. Format Painter just basically says, take whatever format are on these rows, the source row, and put it in the target row. So we just say, do the same thing in female that you've done in male. So let's highlight that, except it also adjusted the column, so let's readjust. And notice we also have the lowest 1.5 and the highest 14.3, and that should 1.5, 14.3. Perfect. So the highest values for male and female are in Wyoming, and the lowest values for females are in Massachusetts, and the lowest for the males are in New York State. What about the range? The range is just the max value minus the min value. That's the range of values in the data set. So let's try to do this for males here. The max value for males is 27.7 minus 3.8, which is the min value, gives us 23.9, which is the same thing as the range in the output. Put another way, we could use this with formulas equals max of the males minus min of the males, 23.9. So that's the range. We could do the same thing for females, except now we just have to move the columns. We say it's not the N column that we want the P column, 12.8, which is the same thing as the output. Great. What is the mean death rate due to motor vehicle accidents for males in 2014? So the mean is the arithmetic mean, and it's what we typically think of as the average. It's the sum of all the data elements divided by the number of elements. So basically, it's sum divided by count in this instance. Now remember I said that it's what we typically think of as the average, but in reality there are 3 averages. There's the mean, the median, and the mode, and we'll go through them one by one. So the mean death rate in 2014 for males was 11.0877551. But we can't forget the units. So the mean rate was 11.0877551 deaths per 100,000. What about the median death rate for males in 2014? The median is basically the halfway point within the data sets. So it's the point where half of the data is higher than the number and half is lower than the number. So in this case, the median death rate for males in 2014 is 9.7 deaths per 100,000. So half of the data is above that rate and half is below that rate. So what is the mode death rate for males in 2014? The mode is the number that comes up most frequently within a data set. So the mode is 6 deaths per 100,000. What about the variance of death rate for males in 2014? The variance is basically the dispersion or spread around the expected value of the data set. It's a little tricky because it's a square, so the sample variance for the 2014 male data would be 29.9806827 deaths per 100,000 squared. If we wanted to have the same unit as the averages, for example, we would need to take the square root of that number, and we would end up with 5.47461649 deaths per 100,000. The square root of the variance is a standard deviation, which is also a way of calculating dispersion or spread around the expected value. The final question is, in 2014, did males or females have a higher death rate due to motor vehicle crashes in the US? How would you answer that? It's a little bit complicated. We would likely look at the average for both groups and then compare them. But which average should we pick? We have mean, median, and mode. There are good arguments for all three of them depending on what we are trying to find out. Luckily, all three methods of calculating the averages are congruent this time. They all point to the same answer, so we don't have to choose. The male mean, median, and mode are all higher than their female counterparts, so we can be pretty confident in saying that in 2014, males had a higher death rate due to motor vehicle crashes in the US than females. I think that wraps it up for today. We were able to download the dataset, analyze it, and answer related questions using our analysis. I hope that this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.